All right, the regular meeting for Mount Pleasant Council will hereby be called to order at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 is hereby called to order. A quorum of the council is present for purpose of the meeting. And we'll have our invocation with Pastor Roberts from Mount Olive Baptist Church. And everybody rise, please. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. The Pledge of Allegiance. All right. So public comments, during public comments, members of the public are expected to conduct themselves in a civil manner and should not personally attack employees or council members. The city council welcomes citizens' participation and comments at all city council meetings. Citizens' comments are limited to 3 minutes out of respect for everyone's time. The council is not permitted to respond to comments. The Texas Open Meeting Act requires the topics of discussion and deliberation be posted on the agenda not less than 72 hours in advance of the council meeting. If your comments relate to a topic that is on the agenda, the council will discuss that topic on the agenda at that time that the topic is discussed and deliberated. Do we have any public comments? I bet hers will be quicker.
Yes, mine will be very quick. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, Mr. Vine. I wanted to come back again this week, I think for a couple of reasons. One, to talk about the parade. Last week I was here, but I don't think I thanked enough people. And next Tuesday after it's over, I won't be able to attend. So I wanted to be able to thank these people before we get the parade started this Saturday. So our annual, this will be Mount Pleasant's 34th annual Christmas parade this Saturday at 6 p.m. We're very excited about it. We should have some TV coverage. People are going to be on the radio all this week talking about it. There should be a big article in the paper tomorrow. But Rotarians, we wanted to come and personally thank some special people at the city. I'm afraid if I start listing them, I'm going to say somebody's name wrong or do it wrong, but they definitely include all the fire department, police department, our streets, our parks, the staff at the Civic Center. We just couldn't do all of this without all of you. I reported at Rotary today, we had a big meeting just about the parade, reported that our new city manager, in fact, was the first one that created the route we're going to follow tomorrow, and that he came to the planning meeting. That hasn't happened in a long, long time. So just very glad and thankful for the city and all that you do so that we can have special events like this for our citizens. Lots of donors, lots of sponsors. We expect crowds of around 10,000 people or more. A lot of them will come in and eat and buy gas and spend their money here and then go back to wherever they are or wherever they came from. And so they'll love it while they're here. Even the chamber pitched in and is having a parade celebration, I think starting at 1 o'clock on Saturday until the parade starts. So there's just going to be a lot going on, and just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Amy.
My name is David Ruff. I live in Titus County. I'm here to talk today about the lack of standing up against corruption. We're watching in real time of people defending former counsel allegedly getting caught stuffing gas money into the proverbial piñata and still go, hey, it must be for a community event. Or they start saying, stop picking on those poor folks under indictment. Then more recently, we watched an 8-minute sermon on this floor with a spectacular of storming outs. Don't like the question? I want to remind all of you sitting up there, you're under the public eye. Same council member being defended by folks who are defending our old city manager that's under indictment. A city where you can be accused of being part of a hate group by a city elected official with zero proof. And the city manager and city attorney, well, they're ignoring the email I sent near 2 weeks ago about it. A city where seats are controlled by board members and their employees better vote the right way. I'll tell you what you can do, literally, do anything other than defend this cancer and this corruption with such vigor that your shoulders are becoming the city's official infrastructure. Some of you folks act like corruption is some majestic natural phenomenon while thinking, wow, look, another scandal. And then they think, sure is beautiful this time of year. Wait, what's that awful smell this morning? Oh, it smells like money. Why can't we attract business here in Mount Pleasant? A county seat reminds everybody that the few pointing out the problems here are not their constituents, instantly creating an atmosphere of, you're not welcome here, but we will take your sales tax money, please. Most say the taxes are insane, yet they're not here tonight. They don't go to school board meetings, and they have zero clue about the hospital stuff going on. And the cast out few, yeah, we're sitting here going, hey, maybe we should stop letting Weight Watchers run the bake sale. You all complain about the pointing out of the corruption the same way you complain about the weather, loudly, frequently, and with absolutely zero intention of doing anything about the deep-rooted issues. If apathy were an Olympic sport, this city would have gold medals stacked higher than the good old boys' secret stash of under-the-table payments. Honestly, the city's deficit of 9 figures, it's not that shocking anymore. But hey, we need to vote in city raises. They deserve it. You got people complaining online, yet they're not sitting behind me. Meanwhile, social media posts of, this proof of corruption is too long to read and understand. Can somebody tell me the short version? Yeah, these are the same folks that will vote and then vote again and hope everything is different next time. The city's charter should read, see something, say nothing, complain endlessly. And if you don't like the question, just double down on professional victimhood. Most of you up there, you're good folks. And I know I've been a bit froggy tonight, maybe even a little bit insulting. And I know personally, because I've seen it, you've done a lot in the background, but very few, they don't know what you've done in the background. You have powers in the background offering agendas tonight to stop transparency. You better start paying attention. You better start being more vocal. Because if you don't start taking people more seriously and maybe communicating with them when they call or email you and allowing unbecoming acts to go unchecked, the work that started years ago is for naught and proves that you all didn't change the trajectory. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Anybody else?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kyle Mooring, and I'm a former asset protection investigator from Walmart Store 131. Today, I stand here on behalf of the current Walmart employees involved in an ongoing OSHA enforcement inspection and as the complainant in a federal whistleblower case. Over the past year, I've used the Texas Public Information Act not as a weapon, but as a flashlight. Through those requests, I learned 2 things: that real hazards existed at Walmart 131, and that the city's record keeping often failed to reflect them. What I found was serious enough that last week I filed 2 ethics complaints with this council, one against city staff over records, inspections, and permitting, and one against the city's outside attorneys over their open records practices. At the same time, the city secretary has put forward Ordinance 2025-24, new public records restrictions that cap one person's access to records and allow that person to be labeled a vexatious requester. On paper, it's about efficient use of resources. But with federal investigations underway and former council members facing felony charges, it looks less like efficiency and far more like a way to sidestep accountability. That is not a hypothetical concern for me. The city has tried to charge me nearly $1,800 for records that other agencies release electronically for little or no cost. I've been told there were no responsive records for an ordinance that already had an agenda memo in your packet that same day. And I've received an official cost estimate letter from the city with another city's email address and template placeholders like requester last name, as if the rights of Mount Pleasant citizens were a copy and paste afterthought. I've been told my requests are not in the public's interest, even when they involved asbestos findings, food contamination, emergency response, and other life safety issues. And the permitting and evaluation records I obtained raised real questions about how major projects at Walmart 131 were valued, permitted, and inspected, and whether fees and documentation matched the work actually done. Those questions matter for safety, they matter for fair taxation, they matter for the integrity of this city's books. There's a line from Sam Walton that fits this moment. There's only one boss, the customer. In a democracy, the same rule applies. There's only one boss, the people. The records you hold don't belong to City Hall, they belong to the public. And when you make them harder to see with high fees, vague notices, and time limit rules, the only thing the city becomes efficient at is eroding the public's trust. Tonight, I'm asking for 3 commitments. First, if these TPIA restrictions stay on the books, promise they will never be turned into a weapon against any resident or citizen acting in good faith. Second, take the ethics complaint seriously. Call on a third-party investigator, preserve all the evidence, and let the facts speak for themselves. Third, change the city's posture towards records. Default to electronic production with metadata. Keep costs reasonable, and treat public records as a promise to the people, not a nuisance to be managed. Mayor, you sign your letters, serving with transparency, accountability, and dedication to our community. Tonight, I'm asking this council to live up to those words, to choose transparency over defensiveness, accountability over convenience, and dedication to the people of Mount Pleasant over protection of the status quo. The people of Mount Pleasant deserve a government that protects their interests, not corporate interests, and a government unafraid of its own records and its own citizens. I'm asking you to stand on the side of transparency and accountability. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Thanks, Kyle. Anyone else? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved through a single council motion, which applies to all the items listed. Consent agenda items are considered routine, not likely to require any discussion or deliberation, and may be discussed prior to taking a motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests an item be removed and considered separately. Does any member wish to remove any item from the agenda for discussion? All right. So if not, is there a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve items on the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Madam Secretary, can we call a vote?
Yes.
Aye.
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 All right, pass unanimously. We'll go ahead and move into the regular agenda. Item number 2, consider ordinance 2025-2022, -22, a budget amendment for $500 grant for Tangle Bank and Space Science Institute to Mount Pleasant Public Library for Flight Path campaign. And it's going to be you, Lupe?
Yes.
All right.
Hello, Council, Mr. Vine. So I am bringing a grant that one of my staff members applied for. It's for $500 for the Flight Path campaign. We've already done the bulk of the programming that's associated with it, but we just received the funds. So with the funds, we're going to be purchasing nature books, and then also purchasing glass awareness stickers that will go on our tall windows. We do get a lot of birds that strike that area, so we received some with a kit that came with the grant, and we just need a couple more to do another window. And I just make a motion to approve this, and I'm open for any questions as well.
I am so proud of you.
Oh,
I just love it when you come up there. You're always bringing the city money and the library money, and I'm just so proud of you.
well, this one was one of my staff members. She's had other grants from the same organization that organizes these. There are a lot of smaller citizen science type of grants, and so she keeps an eye out for these kinds.
What's her name?
Jeanette.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
tell her way to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go ahead and get a vote on this real quick. Item number 2.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-22, amending fiscal year 2025 budget for library grant funds.
Is there a
I
second?
second.
All right, Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Aye.
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 Yes.
The vote was unanimous. Thank you, Lupe. Tell her we said thank you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go on to, item number 3. Hold a public hearing per the City Unsafe Building Abatement Code found in Chapter 150 of the Code of Ordinances and to consider Order 25-011, a declaration of dilapidated structure at 411 Hayes Avenue within the city of Mount Pleasant, Texas, find it to be dilapidated and/or deteriorated and damaged so as to require repair, rehabilitation, or demolition, providing a time within which the owner should rehabilitate, repair, or demolish such structures, and to consider ordering city abatement and subsequent lien on dilapidated structure at 411 Hayes, Mount Pleasant City, Block ELK 197, Lot 4. And John?
Can you hear me? Okay. So we got a few tonight, 411 Hayes, 1309 Houston, and 902 West 10th. Just to kind of go over the process, it's dictated by city code and state statutes. Our code of enforcement officers find the dilapidated properties. They notify the owners to get the properties cleaned up. If the owners do not respond to the letter or do not clean up the properties, then we bring them through the process to come to city council in order to have them demolish or repair the building. If they don't bring in a plan to you tonight to bring forth a plan to rehabilitate the structure, then we would ask that the city council would allow us to demolish the building in 30 days. One thing before we get started on 411 Hayes, this process I know has been kind of new between city council and myself as well. And I just want to thank you guys for working through the process with me. I got some pictures I want to show you of some of the properties that we've cleaned up that you guys have approved. And so I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your support in working through and getting these structures cleaned up, these dilapidated structures. So this is 508 Haggard. So this was the one that was burned out, and there's the before and the after. And actually, when we were getting ready to demolish that, the homeowner that was next door, he was thrilled. He was like, finally, somebody's getting this thing cleaned up. So he was happy about that. This particular one is kind of hard to see, but back in here, there was 2 structures that were actually back in here at the time. And the contractor actually hauled 5 dumpster loads of debris off that lot. There was tires, cars, furniture, anything you can think of on that lot. So the after, as you can tell, and there's actually a fire hydrant back there. I told Chief, I said, hey, Chief, did you know there's a fire hydrant back in there? This is 201 East Pecan. You can see that was the before and after. This here is 1103 Ernest. It was a tree that had fallen on that building. And this is 205 MLK. And so we still have a couple other structures that you guys have approved. One of them we can't get to because of power lines on Ferguson. And then there's another one that would transfer property that's supposed to be demolished by the end of the year, and I'll bring you pictures of those when we get there as well. Yes, yeah. This particular one is 411 Hayes. It's been vacant since 2009. I've been in direct contact with the property owner. He lives in California. He understands that the home needs to be demolished. He was asking about the fee. I don't know if he'll pay it when I send him the bill, but he understands it needs to be demolished. It's pretty much unlivable. He said the inside's worse than the outside, so we're just asking city council to demolish the building or allow us to do it in 30 days.
All right, is there any discussion? Nope. Well, that was, I didn't see the public hearing. Okay. Go ahead and open a public hearing. Yeah, there isn't. You said he's in California, right? Okay.
Well, if,
Is there a motion to approve? Oh, sorry. Is there a motion to declare the structure at 411 Hayes Avenue substandard by order 25-011 in order to be demolished by the owner within 30 days and authorize abatement by the city after the time according to procedure in the city ordinance and state statute? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right. Madam Secretary, can you take a vote?
Aye.
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 Yes.
All right, it was unanimous, and we will move on to item number 5. And John, thank you for your patience with us while we try to figure this stuff out. The opening the hearing and closing it. So is there anything you want to show for item 5? Oh, it's number 4.
Did you need to read it or no? Does he need to read the item?
Oh, the whole line? Okay. Hold a public hearing for the city unsafe building abatement code found in chapter 150 of Code of Ordinances, and to consider order 25-012, a declaration of dilapidated structure at 1309 Houston Avenue within the city of Mount Pleasant, Texas. Find it to be dilapidated and or deteriorated and damaged so as to require repair, rehabilitation, or demolition, providing a time within which the owner should rehabilitate, repair, or demolish such structures, and consider ordering city abatement and subsequent lien on dilapidated structure at 1309 Houston Avenue. Lillian Stern Edition, BLK 4, Lot 5.
Yeah, so this particular, it's actually a vacant lot, and I don't know if this was a garage or a barn or whatever they used it at one time, but as you can see, the roof is pretty much fallen in. It's fallen in as we sit here. So the thing is, with this property owner, I don't know if I couldn't find any records if she was deceased or we sent out the notification to the property. Of course, it came back, but I don't know if you guys know. Yeah, is she deceased? Yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah. So I couldn't get a hold of anybody, but at this point, the barn's dilapidated and needs to be demolished. So we'd ask that you approve us to demolish it.
All right, is there any discussion? Council? Okay, open a public hearing. Is there a motion to declare the structure? Go ahead. Is there a motion? No, close her here. Close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to declare the structure at 1309 Houston Avenue substandard by order 25-012 and order it to be demolished by the owner within 30 days and to authorize abatement by the city after that time according to the procedures in the city ordinance and the state statute.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Madam Secretary, can you take a vote?
Yes. Aye.
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 All right, votes unanimous. We'll move on to item 5. We're gonna hold a public hearing for the city unsafe building abatement code found in chapter 150 of the code ordinances, and to consider order 25-013, a declaration of a dilapidated structure at 902 West 10th Street within the city of Mount Pleasant, Texas. Find it to be dilapidated and or deteriorated and damaged so as to require repair, rehabilitation, or demolition, providing a time within which the owner should rehabilitate, repair, or demolish such structure, and to consider ordering city abatement and subsequent lien of dilapidated structure at 902 West 10th Street, Highland Park Edition, BLK 2, Lot 1 and 2. John?
Yeah, so this particular property, if you drove by it on the street, this is what it looks like from the street. You would never even notice it. But the property's been vacant, or at least there's no water bill since 2021. It is in an estate. I did try to reach out. Nobody from the estate got back to me at this point. So these are some pictures that I could get between the brush, but it's broken windows, rotted wood. The floor is collapsing inside. So we're just asking the city give us, the council give us permission to demolish the building.
Have you not heard back from some of the family?
I have not. I can reach out to them if you have additional, I mean, we can table this until next time, and I can reach out to them.
I do know.
And I have found it.
Okay, so then maybe we table this item until I can get a hold of some family members.
For that
That's up to you
one?
guys.
So
I
what
mean, I'm
happens
pretty
when you
sure
got
they
old
want us to
people
Yeah.
table it. Yeah. Of course, both of them know. All right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and table that item then. We'll move on to, item number 6, discuss and consider ordinance 2025-24 regarding request under the Texas Public Information Act and limitations governing such request. And we're gonna have, I think we're gonna have 2 people, the city attorney, Lee Green, and Austin from her firm that specializes in stuff.
Hi, Mayor. I will let Austin speak to this. He is the PIA expert, and so he's here and available.
Hello, how are y'all doing?
We're doing good, Austin. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
So yeah, I just, I had assisted in drafting this ordinance, so I wanted to just give y'all a brief overview of what it does and answer any questions you might have. The idea behind this is in the Public Information Act, which is all of Chapter 552 of the Texas Government Code. There's a provision that allows cities to adopt an ordinance. There's basically lets you put a reasonable time limit on the amount of time spent on any one particular requester, and so it's designed to limit. Obviously staff time is limited, and it can take just a few minutes to write a request that, an open records request. If I submit a request, that it might generate, 40 hours of work for the city. And so it can become kind of a full-time job if processing these. And so the act takes that into account. It's important. I think there's a lot of times this ordinance gets misconstrued. In no way does it limit anyone's ability to access records or information. All it does is guarantee that the city it really does 2 things. One, it guarantees that the city gets reimbursed for all of the time spent after you hit a certain threshold, which in this ordinance and under the act, it's 36 hours in a year or 15 hours in a month. So once you hit one of those 2 thresholds, any hour spent after that, processing or fulfilling a request, the city can charge for that. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of how the cost rules work, but you can't always charge for your time as a city official processing a request. But once this ordinance kicks in and a particular requester has hit that time threshold, after that you can get reimbursed for the actual time spent, even if you wouldn't normally be able to get reimbursed for that. And the second thing it does is guarantees that the city gets reimbursed for its time before moving on to another request. So if I submit a request to the city and I get a cost estimate back and I haven't paid that, I change my mind, I say I don't want it, right? But you've let me know, hey, the information's ready for me. If a week later I come in and submit a new request for different information, the city doesn't have to respond to that until I've paid up what I owe on the one I've already done. So it puts in some very reasonable limits that I think in the long term will help staff manage its time and resources. But the important thing in terms of transparency and open records, it has absolutely no effect on someone's ability to access information, right? It's not like you get 36 hours and then we don't have to do anything for till next year. It doesn't work like that. So It just guarantees that that time we spend after we hit the 36 hours or the 15 hours in a month is reimbursed accordingly. Does that make sense?
So is there no charge until you hit the 36 hours or the?
So the way it works is like, if I request less than 50 pages of information, that is not, we can't charge for that, basically. So, and there are other instances where you may not be able to charge if someone's giving small requests. So it makes sure that after we hit that 36 hours, then the city can get reimbursed for instances like that where it's less than 50 pages, which would normally not be something we would charge for. You can charge that person under the act because you've already spent so much time, processing requests for them.
Okay. Council, do you have any?
So it's 36 hours a year, or 15 hours per calendar month, is that correct?
And
That's correct, right, Austin?
yes, and that's not a cap. It's not like we only spend 15 hours and then we don't.
Right. It's just
don't do anything
chargeable
else,
after
right?
that.
Yes, it
After
just
those
changes the way that we charge after that. And the other thing it does is it guarantees that if I've already asked for something and it's become available, but I haven't paid for it yet, I can't submit another request and just keep going on, because you basically have to settle up with the city before we process your next request. So it can help kind of make sure that someone is paying as they go, so to speak.
Just wanting to hear from Debbie, our FOIA queen. Does that sound reasonable?
As someone who has gone through it, it's very reasonable, because I know what documents that I went through, and I don't think I ever got even close to this, but I did have to pay for some. But I understand on both sides the hours that are put into this, and I do also understand some things on the code side about documents and the type of inspections that we do and what may or may not be available, so I don't have any problem with those time limits.
And before we open it up for public comment, Austin, you clarified something with me that I just want to make sure I've got it right, because I'm new to the FOIA stuff. When they request documents, or when they request a FOIA, then documents are the only thing that are provided, right? Research and stuff like that is not part of a FOIA. Is that correct?
That's correct. And yeah, just for as you run into the terminology more, you'll see the distinction. But FOIA is actually the federal equivalent of what we operate under is the TPIA, the Texas Public Information Act. So that's like the state level FOIA that applies to the city. But the citizens or the public will often say this is a FOIA request, and we don't distinguish between the two. But it's under the act. But yes, you're required to produce documents that exist at the time the request comes in, and you're specifically not as a city required to answer questions or perform research, and that would fall into a category like when you get a media inquiry, right? Media might send an email with trying to write an article, so they want to know who, what, when, where, and that's not a public information request. That's up to the discretion of the city whether you want to provide a response, but you're not required by law to provide a response. But if I ask for documents, that triggers the PIA process, and then we have a legal obligation to produce whatever documents we have through that.
All right. Thanks, Austin. We'll go ahead and open it up to the public comment. Oh, you got some?
So, I'm glad you asked Debbie, because that was the first thing I was gonna do, because we all know you were the one that did the digging, and you were the one that, you did the whole thing. So, my next question, that's what I was gonna see, is do you think that is fair? Because I know you did that. Second question, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Candace. How many of these requests do you usually get? Because it's varied. There's all kinds of people asking you things. How many do you usually get a day or a week?
On average, in a week, I would say anywhere from 5 to like 10 in a week.
How long does it take you to usually do each one?
It depends on the information. It depends on, because I have to ask other departments for information, if that person's out on vacation, if they have time, if it involves like code enforcement, their system, someone has to go through there, gather all the stuff, send it over to look through. If it's something for finance, that they're wanting something off of financial documents, it requires someone to go pull that information and then send it to me.
So, looking at this, which is 40 hours, as someone who owns a business, well, that's a pay week, 40 hours a week. So this is 36 hours, and that's usually what I get paid. So if you're thinking that for each person, I'm going to say, that does use this, they're basically getting a full week's worth of labor for free, if I'm reading that correctly, or 36 hours per year. So that's a lot of labor.
Well,
that the city
they would be, just to clarify, they would be charged for that time if the rules apply, right? So we can't always impose a charge. Like the 50-page threshold is a good example. If I request something that's less than 50 pages of information, you normally wouldn't be able to charge. So I could, if I was doing small requests, right, one a week over the course of a year, I might get 36 hours and never pay anything because I didn't trigger the cost rules. But I could also submit a request that might trigger 36 hours of work. And if that's the case, then I'm going to get, then there are rules that will kick in that require me to pay. And it's at a rate of $15 an hour. So we'll go through that with the requester. And before Candace does any work, we try, and she, you know, part of the process is working with a requester to make sure that they're willing to pay that amount before we do any work. So there's a process where you issue a cost estimate, and the person can come back and say, you know what, this is too expensive. I want, you know, just 6 months worth of records instead of a whole year, and that'll cut their bill in half, right? Because it's half as much stuff to look through. So it's a bit of a negotiation, but ideally, you don't want your city staff doing a bunch of work only for the requester to come along at the end and say, I don't want to pay this, right? I don't want any of this. And then but you've already spent the time, and now we're not getting reimbursed for it.
So Austin, you're talking about that cost factor. Can you go over that again? Of like the difference between someone requesting small requests versus someone requesting a 50-page document, or whatever the difference is.
So for small requests under 50 pages, you typically cannot charge except for the paper itself. But if I'm asking for emails and I'm asking you to send those emails to me electronically, right? There's no paper involved, so it would be free to the requester. Under the law, we can't charge for that. But if we're going to be incurring, you know, if it's going to take 2 hours to search through those emails to find what you want, well, now we've incurred a labor, you know, that's 2 hours of labor, that's $30. And so when I show up to, you know, when you do that work and I show up to pick up, or when you let me know, hey, I'm ready to send you the information, that's where Candace will also say, you know, it's ready to go. We just need a check or cash for $30, right? Here's your invoice, and then you can have it. At a certain point, you hit over the $40 threshold. That's where you get into the process I was describing, where before we ever do any work, we will send the requester a letter saying, hey, here's how much we think it's going to cost to find everything you're asking for and make it ready for you. Because sometimes you have to redact, right? If it's a bunch of financial documents, we're going to have to go through and redact like account numbers and routing numbers and things. If it's personnel information, sometimes you'd have people's medical records or, you know, retirement information, things like that we're going to redact. So there's all that gets taken into account, but we give them an estimate before we ever do any work. And that gives the requester a chance to say, am I, you know, do I really want all this, or do I want to, you know, modify my request? And that's where we'll work with someone to say, if you limit the time scope, or if you just want this kind of record and not that kind, here's how it would affect the cost, and we'll kind of go back and forth if we need to until they're comfortable with, the amount that they're being charged.
Thank you.
Public?
I'm just curious. Ms. Corbell, when the 2 years ago happened with the old council and all this research was being done, I know for a fact that 36 hours wasn't enough. I know the amount of resources that went into the searching. I know the amount of resources that went into being on the street. Hell, I even jumped up in the air for some proof. And seriously, I flew. When you have a city at that point, not now, let me make that very clear, not now. I actually like this council, at least most of it. Sorry. And you have problems in that area. Again, not this council. And you've got to dig deep. You are literally at that point pricing people out of proving corruption because the city, the Fox ain't going to give up the hen house. They ain't going to do it. And they're going to stonewall you. And yeah, there are laws against all that. But you know what? That last one, if I recall correctly, did that not go to the AG, the Texas AG, to get a ruling to come back because the city kept on stonewalling and doing all sorts of weird stuff? And a decision had to come down in order to release stuff. I mean, it was a mess. This attorney, Mr. Beck, is it? The gentleman that was just speaking.
Yeah, Austin.
Austin? Austin, you there?
Yes, unfortunately, you'll have to direct your comments to council, though, unless they direct me to answer otherwise.
Okay, I just have a simple question, and you can direct him to answer or not. The heck, he can choose to answer or not. But he's an attorney. I'm not. When you're investigating a case, trying to get proof to go ahead and go to an indictment, how much time, energy, and how many records do you have to pull before you have a solid case? How many hours? Can you direct him to answer?
I can answer. A long time.
Long time.
Probably a year and a half or so.
That's about what it was, wasn't it?
It went on for a long
Yeah,
time.
it went on to 2 years.
And I also got turned down for information that I requested, and it went to the AG's office. And after a ruling, I got that information.
I remember.
It's time and patience, and it's your dedication to what you do if you're willing to stay the course. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't come easy personally or financially or any other way. Nothing's easy about what people try to do. It's just if you're determined and you're willing to go the distance, that's it. And like I say, I had times when I was frustrated. I had times when I was angry. I didn't get everything I wanted, so I had to think really, really hard to know specifically what to ask for and how to get it. I learned a lot.
And I dare say, in those 2 years, year and 3/4 that we went through that, you talked me back into the game 3 times because I was so frustrated and you know what. And I know there were times that you were too, because we were talking. So over 36 hours, would that be fair to say that it was over 36 hours a time then? Over that yearly?
Over that year and a half, maybe, I don't know. I tried to be specific, and I got emails back that said, that's not clear. That's not a clarity as to what you're asking for. So I had to learn how to ask for what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your dedication to it. And it's still not easy with anything, but there's no one up here that's going to stand up more for transparency, doing the right thing. You know, it's going to be a tough decision to make because I believe everybody needs to know exactly what's going on. They need to know the inner workings, and they need to be helped.
Your mic.
We need, I don't know, 2 minutes. I'm used to that, though. But it's reasonable to me, and I've been there.
I know. I was there with her. Now, she did the work. I did the media side. I think that's probably pretty fair to say. Guys, here's the deal. And I'm going to be very careful in the way that I calculate my words because I've been privy to a lot of things. You guys know, you've seen my email and the stuff that you're getting. That all of a sudden, we've got a lot of FOIAs coming through. A lot of them. Lots of information for request. And 2 weeks later, this lands on the agenda. I'll tell you what, in the court of public opinion, that's not a coincidence. Quinkadink. It's not. That looks calculated. That looks very calculated. And I don't really care when people say, oh, well, you know, it's this amount of hours and we won't charge, because at that point what you're doing is you're taking this and you're measuring a citizen's willpower and financial fortitude from the fox guarding the henhouse. What I'd suggest you guys do right now, because I know there's meetings going on or about to go on, I've seen a lot of the information, and I'll say it in front of the person. I don't know if it's true. I came to this place 3-4 weeks ago and said, hey, if there's any truth in this, you want to sit down. If there's not, then great. And now all of a sudden, we got this whole FOIA thing on the agenda. You've got a person in this room that could absolutely cause a terror storm. How about you guys turn around, not table this, vote it down, get with some people that know some things, take a look at that information and see if there's any truth to it, and then come back to some FOIA rules. Because either way you go on this is either going to price people out of the game of bringing up corruption in the city, and we've got a history of it. Not saying you guys. Actually, all of you guys are pretty tame compared to the last one. Don't table this. This city has a history of tabling things and coming back when nobody's looking. Vote this thing down. Revisit it after you get through what's coming through your guys' emails. And let me be very clear. I know what's coming through your emails because I'm being copied as well by the person sending it to you. So there's no funny business going on. Do that. Listen to this lady. She was the one running the paperwork.
So one of the things she was saying was 36 hours seemed reasonable or not?
And let me say this, Dave. I mean, I love your passion and anyone else
Same here.
who seeks the truth. What happened in here the last few years, and it happened with everything, we did not have policies. We did not have procedures that were followed. We haven't had a social policy. We haven't had a policy for this kind of stuff. Everybody just kind of did what they wanted and got by with it. It's not going to be that way anymore. We're going to adopt social policies. We're going to adopt policies. And I got a lot of flack for this about the people hiding stuff. The very fact that all of this information comes out on the agenda, that we put it out there, is exactly what we're working for, transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went through it, if there'd have been a fee, I would have paid the fee. I had people offering to give me money to do it, and I said, no, I'll do it on my own. It wasn't this kind of money, whatever.
Yeah, I remember I was one of them.
But the point is, we're going to come to everybody. Everybody's going to get this the week before. Everybody's going to have a chance to study. Everybody's voice, everybody is welcome and invited and encouraged to be a part of this. The fact is, we haven't had policies on a lot of things, and we are getting those done.
Even us county folks that don't vote here.
I love
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
everybody. Everybody has a voice here.
I'm angry. Let me propose this, and Debbie, and for anybody listening and everybody here, I absolutely trust Debbie with everything. I have worked with this lady. When she speaks to me, we may not agree to agree, but at least we can have a communication as she makes sense in my head. But let me propose this. With what's going on, and with this suddenly appearing on the agenda, would it not be a better for transparency and everybody's opinion to say, hey, you know what? No. let's get this other stuff done, and then absolutely come back. Because any way you do this right now, without really doing it that way, and you know what? I may not be seeing a direction that it can be done. So point it out if there is. I think it's better in the court of public opinion to turn around and vote no and absolutely come back to it, because I agree with you from my heart. I agree with you. There needs to be policy. There needs to be transparency. But right now is not the time, not on this and not on the next agenda I'm going to be up here speaking about.
So, what Debbie is saying, exactly what I've been saying. When I got on the council, no policies, things outdated, every one of our boards, everything. Things not brought before the council, so not even in the minutes for us to go find.
You couldn't.
No.
You get laughed off the floor.
So what this council has been doing, especially Jonathan, Carl, from the three of us, we've been digging and we've been looking with Candace's help and with the various managers that we've had to find things and to realize, oh, this wasn't voted on, so it's really null and void. Okay, this isn't signed. Okay, this isn't that. And we're having to talk about them and and work with our city attorney, and we're having to bring things up again that, maybe should have been finished 4 years ago, but they weren't. And so those things are falling on our shoulders to make the decisions, not when they were originally brought up 4 or 5 years ago. So what she's saying is true. That's kind of like our agenda, because every one of us that are sitting here right here, we might not be here. This is an elected position. There will be people coming behind us. And we want to make sure that everything is in writing, everything is done. Now, these things can be amended. They'll be amended, that we'll work on them. But you don't want the next people coming behind us to make the same mistakes that the previous council made. You want to make sure that the wording is there, that everything is good, so that they will have a chance to read things for themselves and not have hearsay. The hearsay is what gets you in trouble.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure that while we're here, we have policies, and that's one thing that's wonderful about Rob. So, in fact, I was going through, I've got it here, I'll go through it later, the things that we decided in January of last year that we wanted to accomplish. And we've had some hiccups again this year. And so Rob is a very meticulous man. And when you work with Rob, he takes notes on everything. He's a list maker. And so you are seeing things happen because he is finding missing policies, and he is finding things that he is trying to get established. He works faster than that's him. He's just a list maker, and he's trying to get things done. Now, the town might not know it. The town's not going to know a lot of stuff that's going on, but the truth is that is the truth. But back to this, when you're saying vote no, and the attorneys can correct me, if we vote no on it, there's a possibility it'll never come back again.
That's not true. It can be offered for an agenda.
But if it's tabled, then it's hanging. If it's tabled, it's something that we will come back to. And whoever's on the council will remind them, okay, this is tabled, we need to talk about this again.
Okay, let me...
And I almost say,
Go ahead.
I mean, it'd be like someone coming up, Dave, right beside you and telling them not to table it and vote yes. I'm pretty sure everybody wants to think on it. I was pretty sure before we even brought it up, it was going to be tabled for more conversation. I don't think it's anything that's going to be lingering. But
And Mr. Mayor, if I can clarify, so yeah, if y'all vote to table it, tabling is signaling to staff that it has to come back on your very next agenda.
right.
If y'all want to postpone it, that would be another option, which is to say it's not going to come back on the next agenda, but at a later date, someone can ask, that it be put back on. If you don't adopt it, all of the same protections that this ordinance does are for the most part provided for anyways under the act. So like if I, did a request and didn't, decided not to pay for it, instead of the very next request I do, having to square up the bill. By default, without y'all adopting this ordinance, if that unpaid amount, it gets to $100, then the same rules kick in that would kick in under this ordinance. So all the ordinance is doing is really lowering the threshold for those things to kick in. So the cities, I'm just saying this to say, if you never adopted the ordinance, the city still has the same tools that the ordinance provides, just at different thresholds that don't kick in, that take longer to kick in. So it's not going to change the amount that someone pays for request, for information one way or the other.
And Dave, one thing that is uncomfortable for me, I can't speak for the other council, but we have to have open conversations about things in public.
Absolutely. That's why you were elected.
And so because we're having these open conversations about this, that doesn't mean that we're necessarily ready to vote. We're just actually having discussions. Because this has come up pretty quick, and so we're just thinking out loud.
Yeah. And that's why I'm reacting. And what you say with the tabling, Mr. Mayor and Kelly and stuff like that actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, and I would just add, just for council as well, to take into account, if there ever is a law enforcement matter, like if a crime has occurred, and that the Public Information Act goes out the window at that point. So the idea that like if the FBI or the Rangers or some law enforcement agency comes in to investigate a crime, they're not subject to the act, and that's true of any regulatory agency. So they're government to government. The Public Information Act doesn't apply. It only applies when it's a private individual or organization, something like that.
Let me ask you this. I know in the last case that it took a lot to go ahead and get I believe it was a city DA to go ahead and refer it and then get the Rangers in. And that took a lot of information to get to that point. And I know we have different people. And the cool thing is, guys, is that this council is just a matter of handing you a piece of paper, calling you up, emailing you. You guys are very responsive, where the last one wasn't. And I'm not comparing you to the last one. What my worry is that whistleblowers or people that see things that are doing wrong, complainants, ethics complaints, stuff like that, that if you start trying to go for information, trying to get the city information, that it's going to start costing you out. And the way that I'm hearing things, I'm kind of leaning towards it won't, but it will. But if it's criminal,
going to cost you either way, with or without this ordinance. It's going to cost you, because that's the way the act is set up. Now, as council, if you all ever want to wave the magic wand and release information, you can do that. But if it's a request going to Candace, she's obligated under the act to go ahead and charge. If the rules apply and require charging, we have to do that.
yeah, I understand that FOIAs do cost. I'm well aware of that.
Well, and I think the big thing too is, like Debbie said, it's a learning lesson. I think that you start to learn when you request everything under the sun. That's
not good.
Right, yeah. I mean, you want to be able, and I'm sure it is a learning lesson. It's the same way, with the stuff that I deal with, is that you go, oh, okay, I tailor it, and I don't need I just need this for these months instead of from the beginning of time, and it's, like you said, to have the fortitude to take those learning lessons. And I hope, and I'm sure Candace does direct people on, well, I think you already told me, when people ask for something, they ask for a whole year, and she's like, well, that's X amount of work. That will cost you, but if you do this, then it's not going to cost you. So I think that it's a learning lesson, and it's being responsible, even as the person that's putting in the FOIA, to understand that, I mean, there's got to be limitations. Like, she's got 10 a week. That I don't know how much time she's going to have to spend on it on top of her other job. So, job. And I think like they were saying, we're putting something in place almost for the next council, right? For the people to be able to be held accountable for. You're gonna have an ordinance.
Instead of casting a dragnet, use a laser.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And the times that I've ever talked to Candace, she's been very, very, a few times, she's always been very responsive and very pleasant. So it's.
Yeah. I don't think right now, I would hope right now that if someone asks for somebody or something specific, I mean, I think we're all pretty helpful, because we feel your pain, So I would just say when anybody requests that kind of information, just, you know, just be specific, right? And be mindful of the amount of time that it is gonna take a person. I mean, there's gotta be a charge behind it. It sounds like, I mean, 36 hours or 15 in a month that's a lot.
Oh, you ought to get my bill for 36 hours.
Yeah, so, oop, just went off again.
Everybody at home and who's listening to this, it's so important that the citizens understand that we already have this. This is a legal standing as to what you have to do, what you have to pay for, how many hours. That's already preordained, I guess you could say. This is just an ordinance really to back it up so that we have something on the record. But already there's stipulations as to when you have to start paying and all of that. So it's nothing really all that new. It's just getting an ordinance to support it that we didn't have before.
Yeah, putting it in place for yourself and for the next council.
Yeah,
And as I said in my opening comments is, I'm very involved as far as for watching, asking questions with each, one of you guys. And I know what you're doing in the background, the amount of work that you're doing, Ms. Fokker. I know the amount of sorry, of work that you're doing, and a lot of people don't. So communication, Mr. Vine, it's key. It really is. I know you do a good job. I hear a lot of good things about you, but communication, sir. That communicating and letting people know what you're doing and stuff like that. So I think I've held the mic enough, hopefully, and that's all I got to say. Thanks.
We do. We appreciate it.
So I just want to touch base on this a little bit. I think the thing that hasn't been mentioned is like the vexatious requester part. You know, what defines that, a vexatious requester? It means like if it's annoying or, redundant, but that's all subjective to the records manager. And the records that I've requested have had substantiated claims. And like I have asked for something that was for a year's worth of record. But it's because from another records request, I found out that Walmart wasn't getting, the same fees assessed to them that the ordinance dictates. So I wanted to see, well, what about other, businesses in Mount Pleasant? Let me compare it to that. And then Austin Beck said almost $1,800 to get that. And right now, he got on a couple days ago, the Attorney General's office is reviewing that as a cost complaint. And there's not just that. I've submitted other, complaints to the Attorney General's office because of records request issues. And it's a broad discretion to brand someone as a vexatious requester. And I'm not arguing with capping the hours or anything. I understand it takes a lot of work, but those are the same offices, like the city secretary and, the city attorneys that are presenting this, that I've already challenged them in a formal ethics complaint because of the issues I've had with the record. And it's not just, I think it's basically right now in this given moment, I agree with tabling it. I'm not arguing with that. I think that's a good idea, but the whole premise of the vexatious requester is I just don't get how you can define that without there being some sort of gray area.
And just so council's clear, that's not actually part of this ordinance. I'm not sure where that term comes from, but it's not in the chapter 552.
It's not in the agenda item.
It's not in the ordinance and it's not in state law.
Vexatious. So. They say vexatious. Right. In the agenda item? I'm not talking about 552. I was about to say on the
agenda item, not in the ordinance. Well, Kyle, did he quantify with how much work that $1,800 was going to be?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
I'm just curious the hours.
Yeah, it said like 72 hours.
That's a lot of hours.
Yeah. And then it's not just that, it's the metadata. I feel like the timing.
What do you need?
Like,
I know why would you need metadata?
So I've been told by the city that they have to print stuff off and then scan it back in.
Yeah.
The documents. It erases the metadata.
Not allowed to, and we're not allowed to ask him why he wants anything. I would just let him have his 3 minutes, and if we can move on, because it's.
But it's not just that. It's the timing of everything. One of my records requests, I got criminally trespassed from Walmart. And it was 3 days after I requested the OSHA 300 log. They never provided them to me until after I got trespassed. That's against OSHA like statutes. You know, and then through my records request, I got the call details of that CT. And I found out that the store manager of Walmart contacted the chief on his personal phone regarding the criminal trespass. And then I requested records for that. And I found out one of the officers that showed up said that, you know, he's been CT'd in his text messages because it's a temporary custodian. It's public record because it involved me or what happened. And then he said, thanks. You may give the city a heads up. He openly admitted he was going to sue the city, just FYI, in regards to the inspection of the retail property produce or something like that. It's on my BWC. I never said it. You can review the body camera. I explained the whistleblower process, the Department of Labor, everything involved. And then the chief
Mayor,
responded,
if this
he
is
can bring
under,
it.
if this is under citizen comment, if we can just bring it back to the ordinance is the agenda.
I'll
item.
bring it back to the ordinance. It's the fact that these records requests and the timing of this ordinance is very odd to me. And, you know, and what dictates, I guess, from denying these people, because if an $1,800 records request, if that tied me up, then most of this stuff I would not have found out. None of it. I would have been stuck at that point. So, that's all I want to share.
Any other comments? Council?
I have a question for the lawyer. Section 3703 defines legitimate media as individuals who gather and disseminate information as a substantial part of their livelihood. So will our social media clearly distinguish between actual news outlets and anonymous Facebook pages or social media news pages that have news in the title? And how?
Let me pull up that section here.
Are we on that?
Give me just a moment. Let me pull up that section. So yeah, the way this
I'll hold it for later.
and this is straight out of state law, so it's not something that the city has discretion about. But yeah, it's basically it does not apply to media because their entire job is submitting these requests. So, and how you would go about proving up that a substantial portion of someone's livelihood. So it's designed for like professional media, not so much someone with like like their own publication. So, and that would be one where we would, if someone claimed that, that's one of the situations where you can ask for identification and credentials and have them kind of prove up that they're part of a legitimate media organization. Usually you can tell because it'll say ABC News at the bottom of their email. And the email is typically coming from a news organization. So, does that answer your question?
I think so.
Austin, I have one question, just for clarification and to provide information for council and also for the public. If and when we do charge an hourly rate for staff, what hourly rate do we utilize?
It's capped by the Attorney General at $15 an hour.
So to bring that closer to home, the person that is performing makes considerably more than $15. So the city is not breaking even. We are trying to recoup something again. We're using taxpayers' money. We're not trying to do away with these. We're trying to make sure that we're responsible for it.
All right, is there a motion to approve ordinance? Real quick.
Given what has said and great advice, can I get maybe you guys to consider tabling this thing and doing some research and then also showing us what you guys are going to do for the community as far as for transparency and that, and then re-bringing it back would be great. I appreciate you guys.
All right, is there a motion to approve ordinance 2025-24 regarding request under the Texas Public Information Act and limitations governing such request?
I'd like to make a motion that we table this at the this time.
Do I need a second for that?
I would
I
second.
second.
There we go. It is tabled. So being tabled, it will come to the next.
Next meeting.
You had a motion and a second. Did y'all vote?
Oh, okay.
though?
We'll go ahead and take a vote to, Madam Secretary?
Yes, and I say that based on transparency, people getting the truth out there. Maybe that will surface this week and everybody will understand it more, so I vote yes.
I have one question though. If we table it, is there a way that we can come back, let's say at the first of the year, to give us time to research this, or does it have to be on the
Table has
very-
to be the next meeting. Suspend
Well-
it would be,
And that won't
Later in the year.
prevent y'all from tabling it again, though. If you're still not ready to act, you can table it. There's no limit to the amount of times you can table it, so.
Okay. Aye.
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 all right, item passed unanimously. Item number 7, discussion of social media policy for the city of Mount Pleasant. And this is gonna be our attorney and city secretary.
Mayor, this is on the agenda again. As you know, it was on the meeting agenda last meeting, and there were some requests for edits to the draft a policy, and those are included in the draft that is in the agenda packet. And so those are red line changes so that you could, so that everyone, the council and the public, can see those changes. So basically what that does is it adds a section on making the delay in the social, in the way that the live feed is, so that it's not, so what is on social media, like YouTube, is not going to be at the exact same time as it is at the meeting. And that's, I think, for security reasons, and I think there are others that can address that. And then the second addition is if members of the public, right now, there's been occasions in which the city secretary, assistant city manager has been asked to read comments that are posted on the YouTube page. And instead of that, since there wouldn't be comments under this policy beginning January 2, that the city would not be allowing the public to post comments, is that someone could send in their statement that they wanted to have read at a meeting. They could, of course, come to the meeting and speak publicly, but they could also just send in their statement to have read, and that the city secretary could then read that statement at a meeting. And they have to do that 2 hours before the meeting time. So that's what the two changes in this policy are included.
Well, and I think the 15 minutes, that is pretty standard, and I think that's a very good security measure. It's nice for them not to see where our police chief is at the moment. And something I want to clarify, whenever I talked to Candace about the YouTube comments and everything, she said it's really hard. I mean, I know she's over there, but she's running the meeting, we're at least documenting and everything. So she said that there's times where she has to read through all of the comments while she's taking our notes, doing the votes, and keeping up with the meeting. That's where it gets a little hairy. So I think that's why they're asking it's almost like if you're going to be here, turn in your comments before the meeting on the agenda, I think is what they're looking for. So, is there any discussion with the council?
The delay time is just before the meeting is released. Is that what that is?
I think it's 15 minutes. Yeah.
Meeting in the entirety, it'll just be delayed 15 minutes for
Correct.
security reasons. Okay. And the other question is, the comment section. It would just be that if you're not here and you want to enter your comments on social media, that it has to be done 2 hours before. It originally had said 24, it's now 2, so that she can handle the meeting and do what she needs to do, but she has access to them before and can bring them to us.
And I'll add too, as far as disabling the comments on our social media, specifically Facebook, the city currently does not have a social media or a public information officer. What that person would do, he or she could monitor social media throughout the day, throughout the evening. You're very right, communication is key. If we do not have a communicator to monitor that Facebook page, which we could do 24 hours a day, 30 hours a week, or 40 hours a week, we have false information that's out there that we haven't corrected. We have questions that are out there that we haven't answered. That's poor communication. So we are looking to just, and this is a temporary measure, here we're able to appoint someone as a public information officer. This is going to be just a bullet. It's information sharing. Until we have someone that can sit and monitor, not every day, all day, but they can monitor, answer questions in a timely fashion, and then also then debunk false information that someone else might put out there in our comments.
So, I haven't tried before. Is it shareable?
Yes, it will be shareable. So any information that we put out can be shared to whatever page you wish, and you can comment to your heart's delight on your page.
Fair to me. Especially right now, I really want us to have a public communications officer. I hope that's something that we can get, soon, because I think that, we need to be able to communicate for transparency and everything else. So,
Sorry to interrupt you, Mayor and Council. I was going to step away if that's okay with you, and I'll let Lee take over from here. I didn't want to just ghost y'all, but
I appreciate it.
If it's okay with you, I'll excuse myself.
All right. Thanks, Austin. Is there
Thank
any
you all. Have a good
discussion?
evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud. Any discussion?
And Mayor, this is just on the agenda for discussion again. It's not, the council wanted to present it for discussion to make sure that everyone is able to, understand what is on the table as proposed. And so I can add the delay as a 15-minute delay, right, in that policy to make that clear. I would say approximate, just because, we don't, I would say approximate 15-minute delay access.
That does bring up something. I've had a couple of different complaints that the meeting will end like a minute and a half early or something like that. So I don't know how we stop it, but we probably want to make sure after we adjourn the meeting that it lasts at least like one more minute to make sure we get everything in there. I don't know if it's lag or what it is, but is that cool? All right, awesome.
I
Killing
did
me.
want to ask you a question. So,
This is right up my alley.
so I'm going to give you a hypothetical.
Sure.
You're on the road. Oh. You're on the road. It's during your
road again.
during your season.
Yep.
But you're watching this.
Yep.
You're seeing the agenda. 'cause
Almost
it's
every meeting.
Because it's posted, what now, 72 hours at a time? Longer
Oh,
than that.
actually, yeah, longer than that. You guys have been awesome.
So when it's posted longer, you're reading it, your brain is going, you're typing all over the place. Every Facebook thing.
You can say up to no good.
Mhm. Would 2 hours prior to the meeting, because you can't be here, would that give you enough time to put your comments out that can be read? at
If
the
I'm a
meeting?
mind reader, it can, because I don't know what any of you guys are going to say. So let's say Mr. Vine is reading the financial report, and I'm getting educated in where the money's going. By the way, you're doing a really good job. But there's a question, and he says something, and I think, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. How can I ask that question? Now I have to wait for 2 weeks, and then it's out of turn. And then you guys are going back in time. Doesn't make any sense. So that's the answer to your question. And I did have a couple more comments, but yeah, please, I want to finish.
Yeah.
With you, yes.
So I'm looking at the back row. The back row is here every meeting. Now, y'all aren't on Facebook and y'all not on stuff, but I do hear from you. If you had 2 hours before, would you take advantage of it by posting your questions on?
They're all the retired guys.
And it's a great question, but my argument would be is I don't know what you guys are going to say in any single agenda item or anything else like that. So how could I possibly ask you a question if I have a question 2 hours before you ask it? And that goes to my next point of a 15-minute delay for security.
That's normal. That's with football games. That's with, I mean, Chief.
Well, I understand security is important. And I understand ammunition is very expensive, so I hope you're a good shot if something happens. But my point being, guys, is all I have to do is pull my phone out, come up to your website, and see what time your city council is, and if I'm hell-bent on causing harm or anything, I already know what time your meeting's starting and when you guys are going to be there. What is a 15-minute delay going to do anything?
So how do we solve the last part? And I mean, it's part of the discussion is that she's keeping up with our meeting. She's documenting everything. She's making our minutes. And there's constant chatter going on YouTube.
Okay.
Just
Absolutely.
Is she supposed to be able to read?
How can she do it?
Yeah, exactly. And be able to make sure that she can communicate with everybody that's asking. I think she's actually got dinged a couple of times because she's missed questions, but
she's very busy. How can she do all that and keep the gentle demeanor and great attitude she has? I mean, I get it. So here goes to my next point. You mentioned I'm on the road. I'm all over this world, on sets, on front stage, doing all sorts of stuff. I also have run YouTube things that have 500-600 people going on in comments and stuff like that. To solve your problem of how to stop cutting the meeting early on YouTube, once that gavel strikes, wait 1 minute.
I think we've got that taken care of. Yeah, that's what I told Seth. Wait a minute after we adjourn.
We're 45 seconds delayed right now, and that's standard on any platform I've ever used.
We'll take care of that. That'll be done.
Hire yourself a social media person. You got people that have done it for a living. I might even do it for free. And you'd also take me out of the mix of picking on you guys. So no, seriously, I mean, guys, look, when it comes down to comments, you know, how many times, by a show of hands, have you guys said, and I know the true answer here, have said, I wish people get more involved? Raise your hands. How many times have you said that? Yeah?
Every day.
Mr. Hageman, I know you have. I've heard you say it. So you want people to get more involved, but you're going to go ahead and do a 15-minute delay for security, whatever. It doesn't make much sense when you under the scrutiny of security when anybody can look that up. Okay, I can deal with that. But she's busy and can't get to anything. And trust me, I've probably yelled at her a time or two. I'm sorry. I know it's frustrating, but guys, you can hire somebody. I mean, and I'm not saying that I'm available or anything, but what I am saying is that I have run groups like that with 500-600 people making comments. It's not that hard to do if you know what you're doing. And boom, then you've got your involvement. And you know what? Back 2 years ago when we were dealing with the old council, I think the max I ever saw in here was maybe about 7,500 people watching at one time. Most of the time, you're lucky if you get over about 10. So it's very manageable. I'm not saying I'm available, but, you know.
I will say this, Dave. You know what we went through on budget. You know how tight we are. It would be great to hire a social media person and a public information officer, but right now I don't see us hiring anybody in the immediate future. I mean, it's just a matter maybe of just not being able to meet every need, but I think we're going to try, but we can't do everything. And you know how I am. I want everybody to have a voice, but hiring people right now is probably not going to happen just for that. It's just my opinion, but, you know, we're going to try to do better. We're going to try to meet every need, but, you know, just suggesting that we hire somebody I'd like to see a lot of other things done first. Just a off-the-record comment.
I appreciate your passion, so tell you what, here's what I'll do. I can do this from anywhere in the world. Until you hire a social media person, table this, consider in the back room, and there's no insult if you say no.
There's no vote on it tonight. It's discussed.
I will run your meeting if you show me what to do, and I'll charge you a whole freaking coffee every 2 weeks, because it's something I can do from anywhere in the world. It's not that hard to do. It's really not. And I'm not saying that as an insult to her, because she has tons of stuff that she's doing. So please understand. I get it. I've been there. But if you've got people with the talent and know what the heck they're doing, it's not that hard to call them in here, train them to your systems, buy them a cup of coffee every 2 weeks. Most of the time you won't, because I'm going to be on the road, but it's something I can do from the road until you hire somebody. Because if you lose those public comments, then you absolutely lose the voice of the people that elected you or have the potential to unelect you.
Candace, how many comments tonight? One. How many comments last week?
I can go back and get that for you.
Was it 1 to 5 or 50 to 100?
It was nowhere near 50.
Okay. I think we leave the comments, because you can stop. Candace, comment after each agenda item. You'll have one, the whole night, maybe 5. But let's not take away the people's voice. I think it's a bad idea.
Well, it's something that we're going to be discussing, but I think that brings up a good point of people that are on our YouTube channel during our meeting. At least keep it to questions, maybe, so there's not 75 things scrolling through there. Just use it as an avenue to communicate with us, and then y'all can communicate with each other. Either, comments and questions, because we do love them, comments and questions, so.
Here's another suggestion for you. So that YouTube feed, you could very easily have Mr. Rob Vine have a screen right there where he can actually see comments in real time. Oh, by the way, you can slow the comments down. And you're shaking your head, but it is a suggestion where you can actually see them in real time. You can also instruct people saying, look, your comments or questions are only going to be read if you put big letters, question, comment, and then say, if you abuse this, I'm guilty of it because I've gone off once or twice in there, that you're going to be banned for, a meeting to whatever, habitual. I mean, these are all things that you can do and have access at your fingertips. I understand you guys aren't supposed to be on your phones and things like that, but you can have a screen up there where you can all see it in real time.
Good deal. Good for discussion.
I got one thing to that. If we're going to keep the comments, at a minimum, it should be treated as someone that's in this room, right? So they should at least identify themselves as where they're from or what have you. So we're not talking about Jimmy Joe from St. Louis who just feels like hopping in and harassing.
Right.
That would be my one comment there. But, if that's the way we want to go. But everything else seems to provide ample opportunity to either be involved, to Dave Ruff's point, and come and show up at a meeting, or if you see an item on the agenda that you're concerned with, to submit something 2 hours in advance. But I do hear the point that's being made regarding something coming up and you don't know what to say, or you weren't aware, or something on a report. So I see all of it, but they got to at least identify themselves, because, that's the same rigor we're requiring everybody else that does take the time to show up.
And keep the decorum of the meeting also, so.
My comment doesn't just pertain to social media, but all aspects of the city. These comments are being made all the time. They just aren't here to tell you, and I know Debbie's well aware of this. So indicted and up against charges coming up soon, city manager. Before that, all the hats in the city, employees wore many hats. There wasn't one Main Street director, not to pick on Main Street, it's just what I can think about right now. You didn't just do Main Street, you did Main Street, you backed up the city secretary, you did some finance, you were the receptionist. Debbie knows, she worked here for 30 years. You didn't do just one thing. And I know Rob just got here, and he's probably analyzing every position, what's being done. We're having a salary study done, which I think will be very, if done correctly, because we've had one that was not done correctly. So if we're done correctly, it should answer a lot of questions. But I think what you guys are looking for, yes, a PIO officer usually does that full time, but there's a way to do that a quarter of the time, 10% of the time. There's a way to help monitor social media, not often. Somebody could be here assisting Candace. I mean, I did that when I worked at the city. I sat with Darlene and played her backup as city secretary. We have pigeonholed everything with a lot of salary that goes with it. So I can't remember the exact numbers, but as of 18 months ago, I think our salary costs had gone up 60%. Yes. Yes, in a very short amount of time. So I just think somewhere along the way, and it happens when, things aren't being looked at and allocated the right way, it can happen, that there's not enough people wearing enough hats. And I think that doesn't just go for social media and what we're talking about. I know I look at some of you and what you do for a living, like, Melanie, I know you don't just do one thing a day. You probably do 50 things a day, being the marketing director. You don't, but if somebody needed something, I've seen you do it. You jump in and help. I mean, I've been in the restaurant when you're there helping. So it should be like that in this city as well. And maybe it just has kind of leaned away from that. But Rob's here now, and hopefully that'll be, answered. And so in this time when you table, I know you guys don't really do employment. You hire Rob to handle all employment. But put your 2 cents worth in. If there's a way for somebody to help Candace, she can't do all that sitting right there. There's no way. I've been there, but she just needs a little bit of help during the meeting. So I say look in that direction. But I'm not just speaking for me. That's from several people.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one thing. A PIO is what I've wanted since I've been elected. So I hope there is some way we can work that out. The PIO stuff. Okay. Okay. That's good stuff. Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
And to Mr. Hageman's point with, Billie Jean and Kansas, there are ways actually with YouTube right now, because we used to do it when we did our talk shows and stuff like that, that you can actually vet all that. So it's a very good point. We see it in Titus County rants and raves all the time, where somebody from out of the city is, and I'm talking like in Dallas, is trolling. So to your point, good suggestion, and it can be mitigated right now with actually the software that they're running. As far as for what she was saying, you don't think you can find some volunteers to sit in front of that screen for 2, 3, 4 hours, however long you guys want to go? I mean, when I'm in town, if I thought that I could sit next with her without her killing me, I'd monitor it. And I'm sure you got other people that are passionate about the city that you can do it until you can actually hire somebody. Because, yeah, there are points where money is going. Literally, you could set a light right there with somebody monitoring it, and when there's enough questions, 2 or 3 questions, or enough time's gone by, like at the end of the agenda, when you say, hey, are there any questions, that light could be turned on, and there's questions sitting there. Same thing can be done from 1,000 miles away. If they have Candace's phone number, they turn around and send a text saying, hey, questions. She turns the lights on. Are there any questions? Boom. I mean, it's the same thing, and somebody here would have to read it, but there's somebody there monitoring at least. So there's so many ways that this can be mitigated so simply, and include your populace of what, 16, 17,000 people here in the city proper, and then you got another 16 out in the county. Taxpayers that spend money here, listen to them.
Does that give you enough to chew on?
We have
Rob?
a lot.
All right.
We have employees that can help fill that role. We have
Yeah.
a lot of them in this building right now. So
There you go.
maybe that's a solution, and that's what we get when we work together.
Buy them a coffee.
All right. All right, let's move on to item number 8, City Manager's Report. Rob?
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, this will be short. would first like to bring the Christmas tree lighting event we had on November 19th. I would like to give praise to those that worked hard to make that a very successful event. Assistant City Manager Webster, Public Works Director Houston, Utilities Director Marshall, Fire Chief McCray, and Police Chief Human. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but there was a great turnout for those of you that were there. I just think it was a great event and want to thank staff for the work they put into that. I'll be meeting with GrantWorks on December 4th to discuss possible partnership moving forward as we focus our attention to researching and applying for various grants. And then earlier this afternoon, I met with the county judge, our city financial consultant, and a consultant representing the developer to continue to talk about development along the I-30 corridor. And our goal is to bring a development incentive agreement to you at our very next council meeting, which will be December 16th for your consideration. That's all I have. And this was handed to me by our library director, our December newsletter. If anyone is interested, it is on the library's Facebook page, and then also I have a copy up here for events that are taking place at the library in the month of December. And I was there earlier today. I was able to read to a group of about 20 pre-K kids, so 34. Well, I hopefully I'm better at reading than counting. But I had a really good time. So there is a lot going on at the public library, so please visit their Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of things like the canning class, of course, a book club, tea parties. They're moving and shaking. Of course, it's Lupe, so they're moving and shaking over there. Narcan training, okay. Go ahead, Kelly.
So I know we were having updates from council, and I want to let y'all know that I was going through some paperwork, and I found this dated January the 15th of 25. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will tell you that as I was going through this is the strategic planning for 24-25, and I am really proud of what we've been able to accomplish with what has been going on that's been keeping us distracted from things. And so I'm going to hit some of these things that we're still kind of here, and I know that Rob is working on them. There's the Tri-Sud water agreement that's still on our list. There's a water master plan update in cooperation with Tri-Sud, so that's still in the works. I will say that the EDC bylaws, after meeting with the EDC yesterday, that's in the works. We have completed the articles of incorporation, the wastewater sewer master plan update, capital improvements, and what I think is interesting is it said, schedule management and bi-monthly city council updates. Well, we are getting great updates, and so thank you, Rob, and thank you, directors, for giving us those updates. But when it talks about like the city council recruitment for the city attorney and the city manager's done. We're still working on a city attorney. And then when you look at enhance community engagement, that's kind of what we're talking about, and doing things with the Chamber of Commerce. And it's kind of like, and we were doing it, and so Rob, I wanted you to kind of put it on your list. Like we were trying to meet, I'm going to say quarterly, and we did it at the Civic Center, and it was where we just kind of said, like a town hall. Yeah. And I thought that was doing really well. Of course, during this later spring, it kind of stopped, but I think that it would be great to bring that back, because again, it gives people an opportunity to talk about. There was also a lot of focus still on EDC, things that we were working on that have been getting cleared up, which is wonderful. The local business support, which is prioritizing the downtown businesses. I think with everything that was done this last spring, I know we don't have a city, we don't have the Main Street director right now, but I know that at that point I think y'all did a great job with the Christmas lighting and all that, since we didn't have the event planner. Finance, having monthly budget reports, quarterly investment reports, the council presentation budget first quarter. We had budget review. We did not do that last year. We were wanting to, after we did our budget in August, or September, to get back every 6 months to review it. We didn't do it last year, and I think that caught us in the rears when we were meeting this summer. I would like to make sure that we have that coming up. It talked about, like, Lynn, for example, zoning code review and updates, comprehensive plan. She's been working on that. I don't really know where we are with, doing what's historical and what's business and all that. I know you've been working on it. You've got your hands full, so that's in the works. Discussion of the park. That's going. We're so happy about that. Provide assistance to developers and applicants with a step-by-step process guide. And I won't say everything, but visiting with Rob, and I know what he's working with. I think that's going to help us in the future with development. So when it comes to human resources, it was update the city personnel policy and procedure. That's done. Recruitment of a city engineer, that's still on our wish list, that we would love to have a city engineer. And then we wanted something that Greg had written down here. We were all meeting, is grow our own talent. And I think when you look around the room at the people that are working for us and our directors, that's happened. And I think I'm so proud of all of you for what you've done. Considering updating the city compensation plan, we're doing that. Establish performance reviews for all the employees. Rob working on that, and I know that's been done. And then the miscellaneous items, I think, and I won't dare ask Mark all the details because I'm not a car person, but review and make recommendations for the council with all those lease cars, trying to get that taken care of. Review and make recommendations for a cost-effective IT service provider. I think we've done that. It's good. We're great. Update the sound system in the council chambers. And so that has been done and getting better. And then focus on and enhance transparency both within the organization and within the community. And we have written that would be taken care of with the State of the City address. And focus on customer service and rebuilding trust. The focus would be on rebuilding trust. Staff and the city council would create an action. And I think as hard as it's been, everybody has worked hard on doing that. I know it's going to take time. Things didn't happen overnight, but hopefully, I wanted y'all to see that things are working, things are getting checked off our list, and I'm really proud of y'all for what y'all been able to accomplish this year. And so, way to go. And I'm done.
Thanks, Kelly. Any other council? I'm good. All right, we're gonna move into executive session pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code. The city council will recess into executive session to discuss the following: consultation with attorney, Texas Government Code 551.071, and personal matters, Texas Government Code 551.074, to discuss investigation regarding ethics complaint filed against council member Melanie Knight Tafoya. It is 7:43. All right, we're moving back into the regular agenda. In accordance with Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, the City Council is reconvened in a regular session to consider any actions or matters discussed in the executive session, and there is no action. Adjourn? Adjourn? Adjourn.